been having, because as you know, there are lots of indicators that our economy could be approaching a downturn. And we all know what happened the last time proposal teams faced this. And it was just an absolute astonishing, difficult situation for a lot of us, right? We had a lot of layoffs, we had a lot of career shifts, and we want to give you the opportunity to prepare yourself instead of being caught unawares. So it's super important that you get that together before the big drop happens, and we're here to help that happen for you. So our sponsors, thank you so much to Patri. Josh is going to tell you a little bit more about himself in a minute, but he is the head of the body over there at Patri, like making things happen. And so we have been working together to bring you this particular presentation, and Patri also sponsored our entire launch event, and because of them, we were able to make it free to you all. So give Josh a shout out, join him in the community, say hi on LinkedIn. He's the man bringing us this free presentation today. So thank you so much. And don't forget to join us at proposalindustryexperts.com. Oh, excuse me. It's going to take just a second to navigate through. Is Google Slides being a little cranky? One moment while I nope, there it is. Okay. Also, what I would love to tell you, since we are talking about recession-proofing our teams, we have a really great episode. I'm going to shamelessly cross promote here for my podcast that I'm on with a few buddies in the proposal space. We have a podcast called No Really Everything's Fine, which you can find simply by Googling. It's on Podbean, it's on Apple Podcasts, it's everywhere you find podcasts. But if you're wanting to know more about the burnout that can come along with kind of these recession-based topics, Rochelle Ray from RMR Consulting did a really good job of helping us understand what burnout looks like. You can join us in the Flaming Dumpster. You can ask questions of the Flaming Dumpster. It's a really delightful experience. And we would love to have you join us over there too, because it's a relevant topic. So I just kind of wanted to draw your attention to that. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and get started. Josh, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you're up to over at Patri?
You bet. Yeah, Josh Ellars here. Super happy to be here. I recognize a lot of the names on the attendee list, and glad to be speaking with you. My history is in all things sales and proposals. I've actually had the opportunity to manage a lot of sales teams and a couple proposal teams in my life. Have this unique perspective about which opportunities are a good fit, which are a bad fit, and how we can position ourselves better within an organization to win smarter and also just be happier. So we'll talk about a lot about that today as well, but just glad to be here with my friend, Catherine.
Yes. Well, and Josh and I have known each other for a little bit, and we've been talking about spicy proposal topics for a while. So this is really great that this is precipitating out. And Josh, I'm going to also shamelessly plug some of your experience here. Josh is the person we wanted on this presentation because he's helped elevate proposal teams into decision-making roles and strategic operations spaces within groups before. So he's actually elevated his proposal teams so that they are protected from some of those recession forces. And that's why we brought him on, to be able to discuss this with you today. My name's Catherine Bennett. You've seen me all throughout the launch. I am a co-founder here at PIA along with Ben Klein and Olivia Getz. I also run Outlaw Proposals, and I have a ton of experience, about 12 years of experience in technical communications and RFP management. So I'm excited to share that with you today. And here's a little bit about what we're going to start with. First of all, it's the recession. Okay, but don't panic. It's just like in Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. We're going to show you how to have your towel, like that you put around your neck, right? And we're going to help make sure that you don't have to feel emotionally overwhelmed by what might be happening around you. I know we're hearing a ton of news about layoffs and, at Shopify, at all these different organizations. First things first, everything is going to be okay. Like, I promise. As a proposal person, you have the skills, you have the capabilities, and you have the really thoughtful insights for business strategy. You're going to be okay during this recession, and we're going to show you how your team will be okay as well, as long as you kind of think strategically. So don't panic, deep breath, everything's going to be fine. Our agenda today. First, we're going to talk about, Josh is going to lead us through how do you get a seat at the table, because again, he's experienced, he understands how to make it happen. He's going to give you the key resources to drive those decisions for your organization. And then we're going to talk about how to shift your focus for your team to make sure that you're protecting not only your human resources, but also the business as a whole, and how proposal teams can really contribute in ways that you may not think of. We're going to talk about what that cross-functional capacity looks like to entrench yourself in an organization so you can't possibly be taken out, right? Because you have so many valuable pieces. And then also what technology looks like to be able to save money and therefore be able to maybe save your job. Finally, we're going to give you a little bit of an idea about how to set your proposal team to work on a pipeline. And we do have an actionable resource that you can take with you about how to find work if you're a proposal manager, so that you can be more valuable to the team. So without any further delay, my goodness, Google Slides is just really acting up today. There we go. A seat at the table. Josh is going to explain how we go from pigeonholed project manager to superior strategy informant. Take it away, Josh.
You bet. A lot of words I put there, but hey, it is what it is. I also realize my shirt kind of matches your branding. It's a beautiful thing. I'll say, you know what? We'll give one of these away too at the end, for a comment that we like. Is that okay?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I want to talk about this. This is really, really important to me. I think a lot of proposal managers out there feel like this pigeonholed project manager. You're sitting in the back office, you're at home, and you're just this recipient that is reactive to everything, even though you don't want to be. You're forced to be that. And I want to talk about how we can become that superior strategy informant. When we go and talk about each of these points, and let's go to the next slide, I want you to first really understand and think and be super conscious about this. And I know this can be a hard exercise for some of us, but I want you to think about how your position is really viewed today. Even your performance, how is that really viewed today? There are a couple signs within the organization that can show you that, right? If you are kind of viewed as more of a reactive recipient of projects and you're just expected to get things done and keep your head down and move forward silently, if you have a feeling of that, you have to kind of embrace that a little bit, and I'll talk about why. Or if it's on the other side, are you already at the table partially? Do you have your voice on these conversations about strategy, about what's winning and what's losing opportunities as a revenue driver? So I want you to first be aware, take the time and take the consciousness to be aware how you are viewed in the company today. And, I know Catherine has the experience with that too, myself included. I've been in positions where I've been viewed as a kind of as a cog in the system, that can be easily replaced. Or I've also been viewed as a strategic informant, right? So I want you to really be thinking about that. That's step one. Step two is really about jumping into a place where you understand that you have insights that nobody else has. You are deep into the opportunity of trying to win this contract with some organization, public or private sector. You are deep into the competitive intel. You understand intimately what the competition is doing, why you're in a good position or in a poor position as a company to pursue and win, or to pursue and potentially lose the opportunity. So you have to remember that, okay, number one, I can be aware of how I'm viewed today, and I have to have that as a foundation. But you have to be really aware that you should have a lot of confidence because you have insights that no one else has. So if your awareness is bringing you to the conclusion that, hey, you know what? I don't have a seat at the table, or I'm not viewed as the strategic informant. You need to find a way, and we'll talk about this here in a little bit, to be able to position yourself better as that strategy informant to others. You have insights nobody else has, and you need to attach yourself to the revenue generating part of the business as far as that positioning goes. So along with that, Catherine, I want to pause here because you're so deep into this world of being aware and also kind of setting yourself up to be that strategy informant. Yeah. Any other insights that you might want to throw in here before we go to the third point about, making sure that people have the confidence to position themselves well within the organization?
Yeah, I think when we're delivering information about strategies, a lot of the information that's top of mind for me is formatting. So understand what executives want. A lot of times, sorry, we're going to have to sacrifice nuance in order to get people on board. So when we think about formatting, you're thinking about single numbers, stoplights, like really quick digestible information to help those folks understand what keys they might be looking at when they're making their strategic roadmap. So I'd say not only the information that you deliver, but also the format in which you deliver that information is super important.
I love it. Yeah, that's right on. So as we jump to the third point here about getting a seat at the table, you start with awareness. How am I really viewed today? You start to really understand, hey, I've got information no one else has. How can we share that? Catherine shared some amazing insights about how to get there. Really understanding the executives within your organization, kind of what makes them tick. It's the how you deliver as much as the what, if that makes sense, right? If the what is your insights, the how could be, those the multiplicity of ways that Catherine showed about. Third, it's all about the positioning. And I want you to repeat after me, either in your minds or out loud, I win revenue. I win revenue. Companies often, when we're in a downturn, we just posted, the Feds posted the numbers just recently, and we are technically in a recession, and it could get worse. And when companies start to panic, I know we talked about us not panicking, but when a company starts to panic, they start looking at what are the things that are not driving revenue and who are the people who are not driving revenue. And you have to be really strong in positioning yourself, if you're not doing it already, as a revenue generator. We are not project managers throwing words on pages to get our name out there and get some awareness of the company, as some people perceive us as, back to that awareness position. We are about winning revenue for the company. The company will suffer without us. And if a company, after repeated efforts, is not seeing that value, there might be a better company out there that can really, really get you to that area of comfort. But I want you to always be repeating that I win revenue within your company. I have to say, I've been in positions where, the proposal team was this back office like thing that we were talking about, maybe turning it off, maybe doing away with it, and maybe just having a contractor to help us on a project basis. But one of the companies I worked for, we were able to turn that, because of these points, into an operation that tripled the amount of dollars won through RFPs in 1 year, and is about to triple it again now as a customer of ours based on some of the work we're doing. But it's about that, don't let others destroy your confidence because of their perception of you. You have to make sure that you're aware that, hey, I win revenue and I'm valuable to the company. Catherine, any final take on that third point?
I've got a quick question for you. Who do I tell this to? I can tell it to my boss all day long, but generally they're not very high in the org chart as well. Like, what job titles am I striving to communicate my like cost per bid, my revenue generation, my capacity? Like, who needs to get that information?
I think it depends on the company, but you have to look at people in power at the company, people making the decisions. So largely VPs of sales or chief revenue officers. I would say heads of business ops or sales ops or rev ops. That's important, because that's really the core function that I got in really good with ours at a prior company. And he became a really good friend of mine. And I was able to clearly communicate the value proposition that we're driving. And in fact, I connected with him again yesterday about company progress and things like that. But heads of revenue, heads of revenue and go-to-market operations, heads of marketing, they could be in a really tough spot. I know a lot of proposal people and professionals roll up on the marketing front. Marketing, depending on the construction of the company, can or cannot have power openly. So when we're talking, let's say a healthy sales process that we promote with our team here is, you want to be multi-threaded within an organization, right? You want to be with the VP of sales. That's who we sell to largely as a company, Patri. We sell to sales ops and we sell to proposal people, right? And in the absence of any one of those, we don't get very far in the sales process. but you have to multi-thread with, up those thread counts. Yes, Paul, absolutely. You've got to up those thread counts within the organization. So I would say, Catherine, to your question, heads of sales ops, marketing, even heads of finance. That's one that we kind of deflect sometimes, but the efficiency and revenue gains that we bring, heads of finance should be aware. So I would say those 4 functions.
That's
And then
spectacular.
finally, the 4th point. And I don't want to take all this webinar's time on this. I know we have a lot more content as we talk about retention here in a little bit, but along those lines, your positioning with these 4 personas, you have to be able to quantify your impact, right? So have a solid number of the revenue that you've won or your team has won. New revenue, renewed revenue. We're going to talk a lot about renewed revenue and retention and things like that. Logos acquired and all of those winning insights, right? So really be thinking about, how do I communicate that? Listen, I know that it's tough sometimes. Oh man, I'm going to send a monthly email to these people. I'm going to Slack them, or I'm going to do this. Like, it's tough in this remote work environment openly to make sure you have those conversations, but you are doing yourself a disservice if you do not step out and put that information out there. I would say be cognizant as much about the how as you are about the why. On the how front, it could be on a regular forecast call. It could be in an email or in a Slack. It could be in some other arena. Just be thoughtful. I believe in, the ability to just be inspired and know like how to do it. So those are my 4 points about getting a seat at the table, going from a pigeonholed project manager to a superior strategy informant. And we'll talk about some of this throughout the rest of the webinar, but any final plug on there, Catherine, before we move on?
Yeah, I think, and I popped this in the chat, but I actually used to do a video about my presentation, or about my performance, like a Loom, 5 minutes, 3 minutes to the executives. You can throw a Loom or some kind of like, there's a million different programs that'll let you put like a TikTok style video together, and you would be surprised at how much traction you can get by delivering insights like this with 2 or 3 slides in a snappy little video, and then folks can consume it and not they're off with their day. So be creative with this because you want to get their attention.
I love it.
Cool. All right, let's move on now. As Josh and I are going to be having conversations throughout all of this. We are also monitoring the chat, so don't be shy. Please drop your comments, questions, and words of wisdom there. In the recession, you want to get a seat at the table, and you also want to understand that RFPs are going to be shifting from prospecting new business, because new business doesn't have any money now. But you know who does have money and who wants to spend it, particularly if you're offering a solution that gives more efficiency. If it's a painkiller type software, what you're going to find is more money that's shifting towards efficiencies, and that is going to be able to help your existing customers spend more at your company. So as an RFP person, here's how you can help your customer group expand, not from new logos. We're not doing new logos. Procurement might even be canceled. Even in the government, our belts are tightening up, right? We're shifting towards this retention focus in the bearish markets. And now you wouldn't automatically think that RFP teams are well positioned to help this. But again, if you're looking to keep your team safe through a recession, you've got to think about making this shift. How do I help support our customer experience? How do I support our business development team? And how do I help make sure that we are retaining the logos that we have? Because recessions, if you're losing your anchor clients, bad news bears. So we really want to focus on how to retain right now. So how do we make this jump? What's going to happen is you're going to start seeing fewer opportunities, particularly in the enterprise segment of the private businesses, right? Less private enterprise funding is available because those interest rates are going up. We're seeing seed funding falling out through the floor, right? So there's just a lot of opportunities that are going away. We talked yesterday with Lee Mixon about fortifying your sales process through government procurement, which tends to go up by as much as 20% during a recession. That's one way you can mitigate your risk against this. But you are also taking this time to think about preventing clients from leaving. So that churn risk. How do we keep clients from leaving for a different product or just cutting our systems entirely during a recession? We know that companies are looking at efficiency focus. They want to do more with less. And if you've got a solution that will help them do that, you're going to have a financial boon. And then also, we are all in a very uncertain situation right now. Things are like, personally, I'm feeling the anxiety. I'm pretty sure everybody on this call is starting to have a little bit of a spicy time out there, right? It's all uncertain, but if you can just help to retain the existing customer base at your organization, you are going to secure your own space and that of your team. And Josh, I'm gonna call on you here in just a little bit to talk about how landing turns to expanding. But here are the ways in which you can position your team more effectively in the organization as this landing new prospects starts turning into expanding existing opportunities. Okay, so first, you've got to get internal networking done. You need to get to know your customer service people. You need to know your business development people. You cannot operate your proposal teams in a silo. Absolutely not. You've got to get in there, start making friends at your org if you're not already doing that. Second, we're going to use our CRM to predict which clients are about to come up for renewal, right? So we know a lot of these people are on 2-3 year cycles. I want a list right now of who's coming up for renewal, and I want to start getting my proposal team in there directly with the salespeople to talk about what we're going to expect, because we cannot be unseated right now. If we are in the incumbent, we have to hold on to our customers. Josh, I saw you nodding there. So tell us a little bit about how you would, like, what you would do to learn more about existing customers with CRM data.
There's a lot you can do with CRM data. Looking at renewal dates of contracts is vital. Getting yourself back to this internal networking and multi-threading operation that's going to be key across this conversation today. You have to get yourself, and even take the lead to a degree, in account planning conversations. So as a renewal is coming close, your company likely has a customer success or account manager for this contract or for this client. Embed yourself deeply within these conversations and do not be shy. Yes, don't be shy. Wow. Whoa, you said exactly what I was saying. We're on the same page. It's beautiful. But get involved on that account planning as early as possible. Be proactive. Share with the sales and CS and BD people, the list of clients coming due, even if they're aware, and embed yourself there. That's what you have to do. And I have to just give you a caution. CRM data is only as good as its user. So take that with a grain of salt. If there's something missing, highlight it. That's part of being valuable to the organization. You are omission finders, I guess, in the CRM data as well. But that's my take. Get in the planning process for those accounts and identify some of the gaps in the CRM.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a really good point, because we can't identify those bugs that are kind of coming out through the CRM. Every rev ops and sales ops person is going to look at you and say, like, oh, thanks. We love having that direct support. And if you're willing to get your hands dirty, again, build up that social capital so that, like, it's much more difficult to get rid of you, right? What Josh was just talking about, we're planning ahead. It's never too early to strategize key accounts. It doesn't matter if it's coming up for renewal in 3 years. If it's your anchor client, you've got to be involved, particularly if you know that they're doing formal procurement, right? And then finally, to Josh's point here, do not believe that you are being a bother when you ask to be informed about opportunities that are potentially coming down the pipeline. It's not traditional that we ask to listen and observe in client meetings, and they may not want you directly in the client meeting, but you can go through the recordings. You can parse the information that you think is important through some of those textual analysis clues. So even if you're not able to actually sit in the meeting yourself, you need to be reviewing what's going on with the client so that you are ready to hit the ground running and you have the exact perspective that customer needs, as again, you're trying to retain and expand your existing customer base. So just a mindset shift. There it is. Mindset shift.
There you go.
I got it out. Okay. It's like Josh knew what we were going to say here. Probably did, because we had the presentation before, but y'all are calling it multi-threading. I'm calling it the zipper effect. The more integrated you are, when we think about the competitors, or when we think about the companies into which we're trying to sell, if you're buddies with their RFP person, and then the salesperson is buddies with whoever they're trying to sell to, and then their VP is the buddy, right? The more integrated you can get with those customers that you're trying to sell to, it may seem really superfluous, but your relationship with that person on the RFP team, or your relationship with someone else in that organization, helps you sell more effectively. It's tighter, it's stickier, and you're much more likely to get that expansion to move forward. So honestly start talking to people at your prospects or at your existing customers companies and just start getting to know them. A lot of times we underestimate the value of that personal relationship and also the value of just demonstrating your competency in those domains. And I think it's really important to think about zipper effect. You're a marketer, you're a salesperson, you're a proposal person. Build relationships with your counterparts at your prospects companies. Again, it sounds like that's never going to move the deal forward, but trust me, building those multi-threaded approaches really does make a big difference, to Paul's point earlier. Okay, so we talked about 1, get your seat at the table. 2, start thinking about how to retain your customers instead of how to expand. And now we're going to talk about your cross-functional capacity as a manager, how you get your cross-functional capacity built within your teams. Again, so they're stickier within the organization, they're more important to the organization, and they're less vulnerable to these recession forces. So when we think about RFP teams, so many times what I see people saying, well, I've been doing proposals for so many years. There's no way I could shift to anything else. My skills aren't transferable. Nonsense. Nonsense, nonsense. Okay, you have a ton of skills that can be transferred, not only personally, but also as an entire team. So if layoffs happen in your org, or if priorities shift, you can be the person to catch those. And again, you can secure your place at your job. So we think of project management as an RFP team member skills. Maybe you don't do technical project management, but you can help deliver deliverables, right? You can help schedule and process and communicate and build that framework. You're also really skilled. Your team is skilled at team building because we are already facilitating decision-making sessions. We're already having that cross-functional support, right? So what parts of your organization need team building support, and it could be even a technical group that you can go in and offer some facilitation sessions for. We know how to put together pitch decks. We understand how to build demos. So if your solutions consultants, your pre-sales people, or anybody along that work stream where demos might occur needs support and assistance, somebody in that space gets laid off, step in. Raise your hand, say, we are going to help you do this work. You also know how to write sales and marketing content. It doesn't have to just be proposals. I know a ton of people whose case studies for proposals are put onto the company website. So if your name's on the case study and now all of a sudden you're on the company website and the product marketing team knows you and the other marketing teams know you and the content team is in your sphere of influence, again, zipper effect, you're more valuable to the organization. And then finally, we know that RFP teams are really skilled at data analysis. You already know how you're benchmarking what's going on in the markets. You're testing your own processes. You're looking at revenue. You're looking at cost per bid. You can take those data analysis skills and move them to other parts of sales operations or sometimes even technical roles if there's a need. So raise your hand and say, yes, I would like to either learn that or I would like to support it because I have those rudimentary skills. And then you also know how to procure, implement, and manage software. You have to in today's space. It doesn't matter if it's Chorus or SharePoint or Lupio or any of these other CRM type of activities that we're going to be talking about later. You know how to do all this stuff. So get yourself in there and take some initiative and start reaching out to other organizations, even if you're busy. Again, it helps secure your team. Josh, I saw lots of emotions coming over your face. Which one of these stand out to you?
Oh, so many emotions. Case in point, so about building relationships with your prospects organization, by the way, we ended up hiring a former head of proposals from a customer of ours as our content manager now. And beyond that, the set of skills that you have across here, I think these 6 segments are really important. Be careful, quick caution to not throw yourself at everything. You can really dilute yourself. But back to the zipper effect that Catherine was talking about in terms of finding the most important high priority things in people and attaching your capabilities to what they need, that is what will allow you to stick within the organization and grow versus be put in this corner of reactiveness, if that makes sense. So I love these 6 points, Catherine.
Excellent. Thanks for that feedback. I think it's really important. It's important for us to realize that as proposal people, we are not in a little tiny box. We're not in a silo. We have many marketable skills that can be useful to all parts of the organization. And we have to leverage that. Okay. Thinking again, stickiness for your team, how you keep yourself safe in a recession. is that you're going to raise your hand for the sales team when they need pitches, when they need assets, when they need one-sheeters. If your marketing team's overwhelmed and you've got a little bit of time, which let's face it, proposal teams don't often have that much time, but in your spare time, you can support coaching on win themes. You can build demo strategies. You have the capability to understand that, because all of these relate back to proposal win themes and understanding what the customer wants. Simply with demo strategies, you're translating everything from written word to PowerPoint. It's a pretty simple transition, right? Like, you understand how to make presentations. In fact, I've got one book that I'd love to recommend to you. It's called Presentation Zen. It's sitting right behind me. I have it at all times. Presentation Zen by Gar Reynolds. So if you're looking for support on your sales processes, Presentation Zen is a great place to start. Similarly, you have the ability to support product marketing. So you know what the market position looks like, because you can analyze and shred the documents that are related to proposal debriefs. You understand what's happening around you, right? You know how to build battle cards for product marketing. You know how to prepare the sales teams for all of these different activities that they're about to undertake, and you know how to write. So the target departments that I'm thinking of, if I believe I'm at risk, I'm starting to reach out to my sales team and say, hey, what additional support can I give you? And I'm reaching out to product marketing and say, how do I entrench myself into your organization as well? So this serves the organization really intentionally. You're not just protecting yourself, you're also shoring up in case people leave, or in case rifts happen. Okay. You know what, we're going to skip this because we've already kind of covered a lot of that. In the interest of time, I'm going to skip that slide. It's a little redundant. So we're talking next about how to employ technology. So, okay, get a seat at the table, build cross-functional capacity, realize that you're expanding and not landing. And now here's where Josh and I are going to have a ton of fun talking about tech, because this is like, I'm chief ingredients officer, and ingredients at Pi is technology. So let's dive in. The types of technology that you need in order to both be efficient and to be responsible in today's proposal marketplace. These are the general categories. You're going to need to understand how client relationship management works. You're going to need to understand document libraries, proposal automation. 72% of people are using it. Probably time to get on board with that if you haven't. Data tools and sales tools. So these are the types of organizational tools that you need to be fluent in, again, to keep your position at your current role. You don't have to digest it all at once, just get started today. Now, when we think about the proposal technology ecosystem, we have these kind of three buckets of activities that we might be engaging with in tech. And again, fluency in these helps determine our longevity at our organizations. So we understand content management. So over on the left-hand side, content management, proposal management, like what goes into the proposal itself to drive those wins. What does the content look like? The second one here is project management. So we're thinking about workflows, due dates, resources, how we're answering the questions. Are we attending the pre-bid meeting, right? Like the nuts and bolts and the administrative part of the bid. And then finally, and certainly probably the most important in a recession environment, is for you to understand what the support tasks look like. So we need to understand how we're kicking off, how we're debriefing, how we're reporting, how we're complying with what we've told people we're going to do. So SLA is service level agreement, how we've promised our internal teams what we're going to do, and then revenue operations. So we understand how we fit into that overall context. So Josh, the proposal tech ecosystem, did we nail all three of these? Did we get it right? Like, what else do you think we're missing, or do you have any comments on these?
I think these buckets are right. There's a lot to do. I know some of the tech can be intimidating, especially I've been a buyer of Lupio and RFPAO and kind of the content front, where there's a lot of upfront work to get everything set up. But assuming that's in place and you can do that efficiently, that can be a massive boon to your productivity. And then project management, obviously supporting tasks. You need to be able to augment your operation and your output with technology. There's a lot that you can rely on others to do. If it's code that you rely on, or if it's other people via technology, for example, we can help prioritize opportunities. We actually offload debriefs for companies. We can do those for others, but whatever the need that you have, I would definitely, especially in a recession, spend as much time as you can understanding the ecosystem of solutions that you currently have, identifying gaps, and finding a way to get a solution like that in place to help augment your efforts as you try to stretch yourself beyond natural limits.
Yes, as we see it's difficult for us to be able to reach out into other departments if we're so beleaguered with tasks that a computer could do for us. I will tell you, everybody on the call today, I think you all know me pretty well. I feel like Josh shares the same perspective. If the computer can do it for me, I'm going to ask the computer to do it for me.
Yep.
right? Like we're yeah, good. We're smart people. We have the ability for higher order thinking. We don't need to be sorting things into buckets like the computer can do it for us. I'd rather spend 8 hours teaching a computer how to do something than spend 8 hours on the task. That's me. It's worked out well so far. So it's a good priority to have. Okay, when we think about tech tools from the content side of things, we have the obvious content organizations here: RFPIO, Loopio, Vendict, Qvidian, Notion, and there's another one here that's called Shelf that I've heard of recently. That's more of a strict content management solution. All of these have to do with the text that goes into your RFPs. So in a recession environment, you are going to be asked to put more RFPs out because your executives are probably going to start panicking, right? They're going to say, we got to get in front of more opportunities. We got to start pushing out more information. And if you're on the receiving end of that, speaking as someone who was on the receiving end of that, when 4 of my teammates got cut during the recession and I was left to do it all by myself, you're going to need a tool. These tools are significantly less expensive than hiring an individual person on, and they help you put your hands on the piece of information that you're going to need. So if you already have these systems in place, as the recession starts progressing, you're again fortifying your team against risk to prevent them from feeling the pressures of all that flood of additional RFPs that's about to start coming down, particularly if you propose into enterprise spaces. Josh, what experience do you have with these? How do you feel about them? Like, are they necessary? Like give us a pulse check on the content aspect here.
Yeah, a lot of years of experience. So I was one of the first buyers of Loopio when I led the government team at Qualtrics. I bought RFPIO at another company, and it is vital, especially if you have high volume opportunities that require you to shuttle off a lot of content in a little amount of time. Critical. If you are doing less volume, these can still be critical because you can organize the content in a way that allows you to be much more efficient. But I've never used maybe some of these ones on the bottom, Vendict and Shelf, but Loopio, RFPIO, high recommendation there if you have a high volume of opportunities.
Yeah, Josh, a lot of organizations already have content management systems like Notion or Shelf. And so if they're reluctant to bring on an RFP specific content tool, I would say, to your point earlier, understand what you already have and see if you can leverage that, right? Say like, oh, maybe we can get some efficiencies through these existing tools. Vendict is one that's kind of on rising up through the organizations right now. I think they're in beta test. It's a really great security questionnaire tool that I've seen kind of come to market. And then Upland Qvidian, they've been around for a hot second. So that's the kind of legacy product. But if you've already got this stuff, like, don't let it sit fallow. Push it as far as you can, especially in a recession environment. Okay, then we also have technology tools that help us around project management, right? So bringing these on board, again, in a recession helps you be faster, more responsive, and look better to your supervisors because you have more data about what's about to go on. So here I have some examples of those things that support workflows, due dates, resourcing, and helping us answer the questions, like helping us with the mechanics of the questions. So Planned Win, one of our sponsors, they're actually a system that helps understand team management and resourcing and deadlines for those big federal proposals, multi-volumes, so that we're not overburdening a single person or a single team. It's very exciting new software. We've got project management tools like Jira, Asana, Teams can even be used for some of this, right? Project management tools, a Miro board where you can spitball new ideas, and then Toggle time tracking, which is just a really great way to make sure that you understand how much your individual efforts cost. So I love these tech tools because they help us organize our work. And again, if you do get that glut of additional RFPs flowing down into your system, you've got to stay organized. We actually will be teaching you next month a little bit more about specific organizational strategies, like how to keep your information really tight on your projects. But this is a really great place to start, and these are some good tools to start considering. And then finally, a logo you're familiar with here. looks pretty familiar. Hey, but the tech tools that we have around the proposal ecosystem are pretty much unfettered. You can leverage so much that you've already got at your organization to get those key insights. Again, to Josh's point, what do we report to those executives? A lot of that data can come from those tools that you see here. So Josh, I'm gonna turn this one over to you and let you describe what you think the support tasks look like for RFPs and why Patri is a good augment for RFP teams.
the great thing here is none of these solutions compete with one another, largely. So I think when you're looking at support tasks, automation is key. So in terms of, like we talked about on the last set of tools, resourcing and allowing you to have the technology do something for you that you shouldn't do yourself. When you look at these support tasks like competitive intelligence, Clue is amazing. I bought Clue at a prior company. I've been a user of Closed, their win-loss analysis, very focused on product marketing personas. In fact, good friends of mine, the founders from Qualtrics. And on the analytics front, BI is wonderful. So Power BI, Tableau, there's Domo out there, and then kind of wrapping all up into Salesforce with some reporting. I think where we sit as Patri, really look at us. Catherine, you mentioned the glut of opportunities that kind of flow our way. And I love the word. We might put that into some of our marketing. I think that's key because we actually provide the filter so that glut is minimized to focus on the best opportunities. We help companies determine how much an opportunity is going to cost them to pursue, what profitability might look like, whether it's a good fit, and we can provide strengths and weaknesses for the opportunity, and ultimately help make the decision about pursuit or not. And then once you do pursue it, we can do a debrief on the back end to help understand why you won it, why you lost it, feed that data into the qualification. Very interesting, but I like the glut there, the glut term. So we can help fix the glut, if that makes sense.
Well, it feels like we're drowning so often. And so that's why I think, the two things that I think are the key components to being successful in RFPs, and this is like vaguely related to what we're talking about, but is qualifying. We got to qualify and we got to learn how to work with SMEs. And a lot of these tools will get you there, right? Because Clue will help you have the marketing intelligence that you can take back to your sales team and say, hey, this is a great way for us to position ourselves within this opportunity, right? Patri helps us filter those information or those opportunities so that we're not having to get completely bombarded. And then we can use tools like Gong to get additional intelligence about what the customer is thinking. And I think as proposal people, we often get really close to the documents, but we don't always get close to the customer. And taking that additional time to really understand what they need. And again, it takes time. So the more breathing room you can give yourself in not only your everyday work, but also this recession environment, like that's what we're trying to say. Put your eggs in a basket so that you can consolidate them and become more efficient, and then give yourself that space to think critically.
Yeah, one more thing, if I may, Catherine.
Yeah.
You need, especially in crunch times like we're in right now, you need to be able to have a louder voice than those in the company commanding you to do things that you probably shouldn't do in terms of pursuits, right? So you need data to say, this is why this is a good opportunity. I don't need some VP of sales yelling in my ear, thou shalt go after this opportunity. And, we can push back and say, hey, look, the data aren't looking good in terms of pursuit, right? So that for us, as we're stepping into a recession, the value proposition for what we do has been growing in demand because we provide that data set to help a company better see which things they should pursue and which things they should leave alone and focus on, like you said, Catherine, the zipper effect, things that matter, getting cross-functional. You imagine spending 50 hours on an opportunity that is a poor fit, where you could have been spending that 50 hours, at least a portion of it, on a good opportunity and getting cross-functional within the organization. That's where the value proposition is of, making sure you're present versus buried by the glut of opportunities coming through.
Fabulous. 100%. 100%. Josh is bringing it. This is great. Okay. When you're buying software, and again, Josh does represent a software company. Pi doesn't, they're our buddies. Pi does not necessarily align ourselves with any of the software that you just saw. We are people who have used these tools and we really love them. So we know that for private enterprise, you're going to have to think about these components when you do go forth to buy software. Again, in a recession environment, if you're asking for more money, it's going to be really, really difficult. So what you're going to have to do to steel yourself against that, if you're looking to bring some of these tools on board or ask for a license for these tools, is think about your security requirements. Think about the nature of your RFP RFPs and think about the formality of the language that you're going to be using. I'll leave this slide for you to consider when you review it, or if you want to grab a screenshot of this to be able to describe how proposal software is purchased. But you're going to want to consider these aspects of your business before you bring any of this software on board. Also remember that there's a really big difference between proposal automation and CRM tools. So when we're thinking about speeding up our proposal process, that's one component of this discussion, but our customer relationship management tools over on the right-hand side is this big umbrella that can really encompass a lot of tools related to opportunity management, like what Josh's organization brings, related to data about proposal performance. So just make sure that when you're having these conversations with executives, if you are looking to bring software on board, that you're setting a bright line between this is sales software that will help us do our jobs, and this is proposal software that will speed up the actual process. So keep in mind that there's a delineation, and that language really, really matters. Okay. Making a business case for software when you're making this happen, again, in a recession, it's super spicy. So what I would try to say is ask for licenses to existing software. And that's why we mentioned that large panel of available items for content management and process management and the ecosystem, is because you might have some of those things on board already. So what you want to do is describe the KPIs, set the goals that you want to bring on board at the organization, the impact that this software might have. If you bring software on that could help the product marketing team too, for instance, really sell that hard. And then always capture the ROI. How much time are the SMEs going to save? How many proposals are going out the door? Because in a recession, your organization is going to look for efficiencies. And if they can spend, $10,000, $20,000 on a piece of software for the year, that's going to prevent them from having to lay off their entire team, you might be able to make a really good case there as well. Okay, last one, and we are almost at the finish line. We're speeding through with 13 minutes left, 12 minutes left actually. Let's talk about how we can build that sales pipeline. But before we get to this, Josh, any more comments about the tech piece here?
No, let's roll. I love the pipeline conversation.
Woo, this will be fun. Okay. So how do we get ahead of the proposal? Because this is something that I hear all the time. As I've been consulting over the past couple months, a lot of people come in and they point to the proposal team and they say, fix your proposals, because that's the problem. And every single time, seriously, every time we've had this conversation with a client, it has been a bid discovery or a sales discovery related issue, as opposed to a proposal efficiency conversation. And so if you're an RFP expert who can help the sales team get ahead of the proposal and almost guarantee a win, again, your team is entrenched and you're less likely to get the boot when that recession time comes. So did you know 50% of proposal professionals are already sourcing work for their firms in this very scientific poll that I did on LinkedIn? But regardless of the actual number, there's a significant percentage of people who are not only completing work, but are also involved in that upstream process. So to Josh's point, qualifying those bids, understanding what those bids look like, also sourcing them. So make yourself more valuable to your organization, make your team more organizationally relevant by becoming a team that can find new work and find new opportunities. Where does one go about finding new work in a recession environment, particularly? Again, yesterday, we talked about how Lee Nixon brings in this concept of getting that federal work on board so that you can start diversifying your portfolio. Even if you don't think your business has any kind of opportunity in the federal or government space, do not hesitate. You are absolutely sure to find something that will help you get that security, because government spending goes up in a recession, private spending goes down. So hedge your bets. You can find work on online big portals where you can get these even for free, and you can set up searches and monitoring statuses so that they can automatically notify you. You can go to professional organizations, so find out where those buyers go to learn and collaborate. If you're in the architecture, engineering, and construction space, there's places like the American Contracting and Engineering Council, or American Council of Engineering Companies. There it is, ACEC. Or if you're in tech, you can go to, Women in Tech. You can go to any number of these tech-related organizations to try to find out where your buyers live. Next, you can do networking for local groups, go to leads groups, start meeting people in person. Now that COVID's a little, a little bit less restrictive, we can actually get back in person and start having those conversations. And then this one is one that's a little bit less, it's a little bit underutilized, but I would highly recommend it. If you're part of the proposals team, start getting to know your partnerships and strategic alliances teams, because they might have a bead on opportunities that are coming down the pipeline that aren't related to them, but that you could use. Or you could partner up and be friends and go forth and conquer the opportunity together. So again, not outside of the scope of your practice, to go talk to partnerships people and find out a little bit more about what's going on within their scope. Josh, where have you found success in these in the past, and where do you recommend people finding new work?
Yeah, partnerships is key. I like the idea of really getting out there and understanding what the ecosystem looks like for your company. I think too often proposal managers are uninformed of what that broader ecosystem looks like. So take the time to become aware of what the partnerships look like. I would say prioritize the top 3 to 5 and start observing. The online portals are good, especially if you do public sector focused business, Deltech, GovWin, GovTech Navigator for state and local opportunities. We have a free solution called Patri Explore, which is basically a dotted line to sam.gov to source those opportunities directly within Patri. But there's a lot that's free out there. We offer it for free, others do. I'd be really careful to not spend a ton of money there, but do your work to network, to identify the partners, and get into those organizations that are the ecosystem orgs that are industry associations like Catherine was talking about. That for government, it could be something like NASIO, which is the state and state CIO association, and a bunch of others like that too. But it really depends on where your company's focused.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. I think that, so I'll be teaching a class on how to network on August 17th. Y'all can mark your calendars. If you have questions about how to actually make that networking connection count, because a lot of times we send people out and we say, hey, go network, and we don't have any idea what that means, right? But there are certain questions you're going to ask about how RFPs are going in the space, or there's certain conversations you're going to want to have, and we'll dive into that a little bit more in the next month. But it's always this kind of big black box for the sales team. So if you can be the person who walks up with the opportunity and says, hey, I found this and it looks really great, you're going to be beloved, and your team is going to have, again, value to the org, and you're going to move up into that strategic rank. So I think it's really important to think about that. And finding work online where I have I think the big, like I said, the big black box for me is private RFPs. And so most of these, and this is on a list that I'll send y'all out later too, like you'll get a document with this whole list on it. So don't worry about writing it down right now. But we have Bonfire for some government bids, BidNet's another great for government bids, GovWin and SAM. Like a lot of these require some technical proficiency to get through, but learn the system. It's worth it for your career. Find RFP actually includes private RFPs. Most of the time we have to get invited to those, right? Like the sales team has to have somebody at the table. Find RFP is brand new, and they're including these private RFPs, and I would definitely consider checking them out. And then if you've got industry specific aggregators that you're already paying for, like in the healthcare space, there's Mercer Portal, there's Shortlister, there's all these different ways that you can actually within your own industry find free or very low cost opportunities that are, again, in that private sphere. So don't feel like there's a wall obscuring your vision through this. You just gotta think creatively with your partnerships team. And then finally, I legitimately found a contracting lead in my local newspaper for grant writing for my county recently. So it sounds really bizarre, but the more you're thinking about opportunities in your space on LinkedIn, in newspapers in your area, and then in actual business publications, like a lot of people are still communicating through those mechanisms, and you never know when you're going to strike gold. So great. We are going to send you out this wonderful where to find RFPs toolkit. There's a list down at the bottom, like I said, about where you can find these opportunities, and it'll be coming in your inbox after this proposal presentation is completed. Really what this comes down to is get your team involved. Your proposal team deserves to be at industry events. You deserve to have that seat at the table, talking about the pitches, cross-pollinating between business development, sales, RFP roles, and really leveraging the power of those associations. So don't feel like you have to stay home while the sales team goes and does things. Get out there, start talking to people. I know a lot of us are introverts. you got to meet people if you're going to get ahead and if you're going to keep your job. So start thinking about how you're going to do that. Start thinking about it for your teams. Come back, have your tea and hot cocoa and cuddle with your cat, but like get out there and start talking to folks. And again, just remember that zipper effect. Make sure that you're thinking about how you relate to the marketing teams at your contracting organizations or at your prospects and at your existing customer base. Think about how you can build that zipper effect, because every little contact definitely counts. So what we talked about today, and again, we're about 4 minutes out, so we're doing great on time. Get your team a seat at the table, focus on retention, build cross-functional capacity, employ technology to save money, and set your proposal team to work on the pipeline. Because if you can source those bids, you are definitely going to be more valuable to the organization where you're staying, and your team will be a little bit more secure, which is what we're hoping to convey to you today. As we move out of our session here, I know we're kind of wasting, or we're not wasting, we're moving towards the end of our session. Here's the Zoom link for our post-activity Q&A here, and I'm going to give Josh a minute to tidy up his thoughts as well. But just a heads up, the Zoom link I just dropped in the chat is where you're going to be able to meet with Josh and Ben to have more conversations about this topic. So half an hour after this, we're just going to kind of hang out and have a good time, and join us in the community process section, where we're going to discuss what we learned here, and you have a chance to win not only a t-shirt, but also a book pack worth $150 with the compendium, Ultimate Bid and Proposal Compendium, Strategic Tendering for Professional Services, and of course my book, Productive Pain. Okay. Josh, final thoughts.
Love it. Love the energy, by the way. I think this topic has to be shouted from the mountaintops for the proposal friends around us. And I want everybody to hear from me and hear from Catherine that you are powerful. You have the ability to stand up and do what you need to do within your organizations, even in a downturn. Don't become a reactive resource for your company. Be proactive, get that seat at the table. And if it's not working there, if it's just roadblock after roadblock after roadblock, that's why this community is here. I think Pi is going to do an excellent job in not just informing the market, but placing the market where they belong, right? In these wonderful roles as well. So please keep that in mind. You have the access to what you need, and we're all here to support one another. So I appreciate you all taking the time, and Catherine and Ben for coordinating this. I think it's been a fun discussion.
I agree. Josh, it's always a delight. Josh and I, like I say, Josh, Ben, and I have been working on this. We have been noodling on proposal topics for many years together, and it's really wonderful to have the opportunity to talk about these key ideas that are coming to the forefront now that a recession is happening, and now that we have some opportunities to think more coherently about these subjects. So